Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Chris Murray Report on WURD 900 AM, 96.1 FM. Ladies and gentlemen, the very opening of my show, you heard da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know what day this is. Today is Derby Day. Today is the 147th running for the Roses, the Kentucky Derby. And one thing that I want to get into today is that we have a Philadelphia native who is an African American running in the Kentucky Derby this year, and his name is Kendrick Carmouche. And from what I understand, I think he's from Philly by way of Louisiana or something like that. But that's what I'm hearing. Or he wrote a lot of his races here in the Pennsylvania area. But nevertheless, if he wins today, he will be the first African-American jockey since Jimmy Winfield back in 1902 to win the Kentucky Derby. And Jordan, let me slip into my professorial mode here.
Yes,
you know, the 15 of the first Kentucky Derbies run were won by black jockeys. Black jockeys at one time dominated the sport. And there's a point I'm going to make here today by talking about this. As a matter of fact, the most famous of those is Isaac Murphy, who was the first jockey to win back-to-back derbies, as well as the first jockey to win 3 derbies. And the thing about it, you know, after about the early 1900s, black people stopped participating in the sport mainly because they were frozen out. I mean, it goes back to the years after slavery and the years after, in the early years after Plessy versus Ferguson, which, basically they came up with separate but not equal, which meant that, they were separate, all right, but definitely was not equal. And that was a time when, this whole idea of manifest destiny and the fact that white folks thought they took over the world basically, and they thought that somehow that made them superior to everybody else. And so in order to have further affirmation of that superiority, why not, just try to eliminate all your competition, okay? It was the reason why they kept blacks out of baseball. Right around that time, they took African Americans out of baseball. They took, because it was got Moses Fleetwood, who played baseball, he got kicked out of the team. The last holdout of African Americans participating in white sports was, oddly enough, Jack Johnson, and he fought, he fought in 1910 against Jim Jeffries and won that fight, and it was for, they made it out to be, the fight for white supremacy and all this other stuff. And Jack Johnson, of course, beat the crap out of Jim Jeffries and won the fight. That was over 100 years ago. Believe it or not, Jordan, that was 100 years ago.
Wow, 100
I think
years.
now 100 years. It'd be, like I say, it was in the last. I was born in the last century. But the thing is that you see it in a different way now. It seems like a never-ending story of black people in America is that every time we gain a foothold with something, they take it away.
Right.
Black people are voting in Georgia, and so now they want to say. I mean, it's like, when we come out, when we do what we're supposed to do, then then that's when to me the real racism kind of comes in. I remember years ago, there's a guy I knew in South Philly. I was living in South Philly, and the guy with the candy store, one day, he and I were talking, and he tells me, he says, when you're going to really see real racism? And I was like, nah, you tell me, I don't know. He says that if every black kid in Philadelphia, I'm talking about every kid, every black male who gets caught up in the system, every black girl who gets caught up, if all those people ever got themselves together en masse, that's when you really see it, and we're seeing it today. So and I could tell that story about the black jockeys because, this will be a historic moment to watch out for today. And I always like horse racing. I mean, I've always been a fan. This is the only time I really watch horse racing, to be honest with you, is during Triple Crown, because I always like to see whether or not a horse can win the Triple Crown. I mean, I grew up watching Secretariat, who I gotta tell you was probably the baddest horse of all time, because that horse, still nobody in the Belmont Stakes, no one will ever, I don't think any horse will ever equal the 31 lengths he killed the field. And I got to tell you this story, Jordan, because this is an interesting story. Let me get back to the other stuff, talking about the Eagles draft. But I got to tell you the story. See, I was watching that race. I was 11 years old, 1970. I was in a department store in West Baltimore, and I saw a bunch of TVs. I was really kind of malingering in the sporting goods section, begging my mother to buy me a baseball glove. But I was watching that race, the Triple Crown, Belmont Stakes, the longest race in the Triple Crown. Secretariat blew out the field so badly. And because I was watching it on multiple screens, I swear to God, Jordan, the optical illusion of watching that horse run on multiple screens, it looked like the horse was going to beat himself. I was like, man, this horse is so bad, he's going to beat himself. And I'm sitting there watching, because the optical illusion kept saying, it looked like he was going to pass himself. He destroyed the field, that he was pretty much racing against himself. He destroyed that horse. Written by Ron Turcotte, basically destroyed the field. And like I said, whenever you watch something on multiple TVs, especially when you watch a track or a race, it looked like the runner's going to beat himself.
Right.
And had I been drinking that day, although I was 11, I would never drink. But had I been drinking that day, I was like, Dad, that horse going to beat himself. I would have told the story that horse beat himself. That horse was so bad that he whooped himself. That's just something else. And so from that standpoint, but I want to talk about the black jockeys in that and keep that in perspective. That was another one of those games, one of those sports that we got X'd out of. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we do have open lines. We're talking about 215-634-8065. 1-866-361-0900, and we got open lines. I'm opening up today. By the way, John Mitchell's going to join us at the bottom of the hour, but we'll still open the lines when he comes over. So we got Fishman in University City. Fishman, what's happening? Sorry, I haven't caught up in a while.
Get out of here in a minute.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm here. Go ahead.
Hey, well, they said the South will rise again. Maybe the next time I call you, I'll be in the country.
You'll be in the country, okay. I hope the South doesn't rise again. Go ahead.
We already witnessed it on January the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. No, I get that. You're absolutely right about that. I mean, but it's like this. Like I say again, this is one of those things where black people, I think, I never want to hear anyone say, especially a lot of black conservatives tell me that black folks, we've never been lazy. It's just that when there's so many obstacles against our success. I'm not saying we've always beaten the odds in this country. Don't ever let anybody on Fox News, everybody will tell you, we've always beaten the odds under the most extreme circumstances.
Brother Chris, I just want to stay on sports. What's your 1 to 10? What's your 1 to 10 on Deontay Smith? Mine is a 10.
I think we're going to talk about Devontae today. Yeah. I think right now it remains to be seen what I'm seeing on film and what I'm hearing from people. Yeah, you might be right about that, because there's a couple of facts that I want to let you know about. One, the big thing on him is that they said that he can't take press coverage. Pro Football Focus said that he was one of the top 5, even at his size, at 6'1", 175 pounds, that he can take. And he told me during the press conference the other way that he went up against press coverage all the time. that people go, yeah, and he knows he's quick enough, but he gets off the ball that you can't hit him. So no, Fishman, no, you're right in your assessment.
Yep, I agree.
You still there?
I'm still here, brother. All I want to know is, are we going to use him to his fullest capability?
Well, I'll say this. It depends. If Jalen Hurts, and I have every reason to believe that Jalen Hurts is a workaholic, Jalen Hurts is going to get the ball to him. And by the way, Jordan, I sent you a soundbite. I hope you got it. And we'll play that clip later. But Jordan, Devontae Smith says he's looking forward to working with Jalen Hurts, and they've worked together. He knows him, and if they groom him right, if Nick Sirianni and those guys get him together and get that receiving core together, and given the reaction that people have given Jalen Hurts, a lot of the players seem to love him, then I think it can work. I think he can be a weapon if they give him the ball, if they do everything right. I think the Eagles can win with this guy. That's my assessment.
Hey, Chris, even though I travel around the world and I came back again, I never leave WRD and sports with Chris Murray.
Thank you, man. I love the rhyme. I love that. So I'm gonna have to tape this. I'm gonna have to take that. Yeah, but like I said again, we'll talk about it because the Eagles. I thought that they finally, and I don't know if you read my article. I hope everybody read my article in the Sunday Sun this week. This came out yesterday. It's on the website, philasun.com. I talked about that whole thing. I talked about their misses. I mean, DK Metcalf, there was some injury concerns, but they should have gotten him. Yeah. And they definitely whiffed on because Justin Jefferson does pretty much the same thing that Smith does. I mean, that in and of itself was right there, and I think how we saw that, So at least that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think I think also to add on to DK Metcalf, I think I heard something about like drug testing or something like that was kind of held teams back from getting them or something like that. At least that's why I heard one time. Yeah.
Well, like I said, he's caught over. He's gone over 2 years. DK Metcalf has gone over 2,000 yards.
Oh yeah.
And has 17 touchdowns. Okay. So and then last year, Justin Jefferson set a rookie record. Set a rookie record for receiving. So that I think is a good choice. We have Richard from North Philadelphia. Richard, how are you?
How you doing, Chris? How you doing, Jordan? It's good to be back again. As far as the NFL draft, well, I like the move the Eagles did with the Cowboys. In other words, to get ahead of the Giants. I thought that was pretty tricky, like that. But you know what? When Patrick Surtain got taken by Denver, the other quarterback got taken by Carolina. Well, I knew that the Eagles will probably have to go to Devontae Davis. In other words, they didn't have really, any choice. In other words, or else if the Eagles had not have done that, and let's say that the Giants had taken it, the Eagles probably wouldn't have much come up with. So I think that move they did with Dallas. Germantown Joe likes Dallas. Dallas picked up that linebacker from Penn State. But Eagles, I think made out good. Yeah. But I have a problem with the second pick. They got that guy named Landon. I forgot what his last name was. Who played with Alabama. Now he had 2 LCA surgeries. Now I hope he can play, develop and come back because I heard he's a good player. Hopefully he can play this year. So what do you think about that?
Well, my thinking is that I hope he can play. I mean, you had the whole Sidney Jones thing, and Sidney Jones never panned out. And to be honest about it, I'm not a fan. I am not a fan at all of taking guys who are hurt. I mean, you barely got me to respect the the pick, the pick for when Joel Embiid came here. And I'm thinking with Joel Embiid, you know, I'm thinking, oh God, here we go, Jeff Ruland all over again. And you know, you're thinking to yourself, oh God, what's gonna happen? You know, what's gonna happen with this guy and all that. And so you're wondering about, wow, whether or not, you know, this guy's gonna pan out. And you know, as far as but he's Alabama. I mean, he's a good player. I mean, I'm not going to, you know, necessarily, you know, poo-poo the selection just yet. But still, I mean, but I do believe at the end of the day, you know, if he's healthy, put him in there. But you know, my thing is that I don't trust guys who it's just, you know, I'm getting to that. Maybe I'm just old and inflexible. And you know, Landon Dickerson, and Landon Dickerson. You know, like I say, he's been hurt a lot, and the thing is, you know, it was just one of those things. You know, this guy has had a history of these things, and you know, I think, and he was a center, and my thing is that, you know, my thing at the end, it's a gamble. You know, it's basically a gamble, but you need to get guys that are healthy. I mean, he's good. He played in a good program, but get guys that are healthy. I mean, like I said again, you barely got me through Joel Embiid. You know, because I was thinking Jeff Ruland, oh boy, here we go, and then Sidney Jones, who had a ruptured Achilles tendon and was never the same. And maybe he didn't fit in this particular scheme, but you know, but still, you know, you're taking a chance with. I mean, you're taking a chance with injury with guys with injury. There's the Cowboys linebacker whose name escapes me right now, but you know, Dre Jones took a chance on him, and he's a good, you know, he's a good, like, serviceable linebacker. So. My thing at the end of the day, I hope they can they need everything. This is a rebuilding year. I'm hoping they can protect Jalen Hurts this year. And so I don't trust drafting guys with injuries. I just don't. And I'm no expert. You know, I'm not Mel Kiper or anything. And then again, Howie Roseman probably is sitting in the same position as myself and Jordan and whatnot. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that they say, well, you got to play in the National Football League. What I'm discovering about a lot of these kids who are GMs and stuff like that, they never played it down. There's some guys that I don't even know how we ever played in high school football. And I'm wondering, why couldn't could a kid like Jordan or somebody like myself get a job at the front office? I mean, I don't know.
Right.
I'm not saying I know.
Right. At least, like, for me, basketball, at least, because that was, like, the sport that I played growing up, at least.
Right. And I'm just saying, go ahead.
One more thing. This week, a senator named Tim Scott said something the other night that just talking about there's no racism in America. And I couldn't believe he said thing like that. I don't know what was going through his mind when he was saying, and he's been catching hell all week. You know, people been calling him Uncle Tom and everything. I don't know what's his problem. So he has what we call cultural amnesia. He forgets where he comes from. What do you say about that? And that'll be it for me.
Well, how I feel about Tim Scott is like this. I mean, you know, maybe someone else is pulling them strings. See, and that's the problem. I think a lot of people who have, I mean, there's nothing wrong. I know a lot of black Republicans who are friends of mine and all that, and who are still honest about the situation in America. If you're a Republican along those lines, I may disagree with you on fiscal issues, but at least we're honest about that. What I have a problem with is like the lieutenant governor of North Carolina and some others who try to deny just because they want to have favor in the party and whatnot that there's racism. My mother's a lifelong Democrat, and I remember growing up, as her as a community active, always called out the racism in Maryland politics, whether they were Democrats or not. And so my thing is that, reminds you being a Republican, but I pray for the day that they can be like Jackie Robinson and just be honest and just call out the people who are in those situations, in my opinion. I mean, that's just me. And so you ask me my opinion, that's my opinion. But, I don't like, to think that there's no racism in this country is absolutely insane on his part. But, I don't know who's pulling his strings, so you never know. All right, we got to go to break. We're going to be talking more about the draft when we come back. And I'm going to bring in John Mitchell, and we're gonna break down this draft and look at all the players and all that. And yes, I'm going to shoot a little bit more sports and politics because a lot of people they say sports and politics don't mix, but it's always there. So we'll talk about a little bit of that too, and we'll talk about regular sports. So we'll be back. Listening to 96.1 FM, 90 AM WURD. The Chris Murray Report will be right back.
Between family dinners, bedtime stories, and study sessions, Pico knows that life never stops moving. So if you need help paying your energy bills, there are financial programs available, like the Customer Assistance Program, or CAP, that offers a monthly credit that can lower your gas and electricity payments. Learn how Pico can help keep your life moving with CAP. See if you qualify at pico.com/CAP.
Parents, teachers, guardians, 100 Black Men of Philadelphia offers a free mentoring program for boys in 1st through 12th grades every 1st and 3rd Saturday. Students will engage in age-appropriate youth development, career exploration, critical thinking, and leadership activities. Students can earn monthly stipends for participation and are eligible for electronic gift cards, prizes, and scholarships. Register today at www.100blackmenphilly.org or call 267-258-2900.
We are people of resilience, so let's protect our lives with vaccines we can trust. We can do this.
To learn more about COVID-19 vaccines, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent Black media.
Okay, we are back at about 11:30ish. We're going to be bringing in my man John Mitchell, longtime sports writer and an expert in many things. But let's talk about this draft, though, Jordan. I mean, and you guys can join in 215-634-8065. I want to get everybody's thoughts. I'm opening up my phone lines today. I want to hear you vent your spleen on this draft. The Sixers have gotten medieval on some of the lesser teams in the league in these last couple of games, which is what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. They've got medieval. Mm-hmm. The Phillies won a game last night. Relief pitching, after screwing up last week, the relief pitching is kind of getting a little bit better, and we're starting to see how good that bullpen is. So, and it was also a fight last night too. I think Alvarado got into it with a guy from the Mets. And that was fun, but I want to talk about this draft though. So Jordan, let's talk about Devontae Smith, and what do you think? I mean, a couple of callers seem to like the guy, and what do you think? Can he be the guy?
Yeah, Devontae
Can he be
Smith.
that dude? Devontae Smith, yeah.
Yeah, honestly,
can he be the guy?
Yeah, honestly, I like it. Originally I actually wanted Jalen Waddle. I feel like it kind of bothers me that we traded back and from the 6th spot to the 12th spot, and then to come back into the 10th spot, where we could have probably actually gotten Jalen Waddle or Pitts already got taken by Atlanta by the time before we would have picked. But
guy from Philly, Philadelphia native.
Yep, it would have been nice to have a Philly native coming to our team. But Devontae Smith, I like the pick, even though he's undersized. You can't really judge the player by his size or anything. I think by his heart, and he also got good praise from Chad Ochocinco. That's really saying a lot. He got high praise from Chad Johnson, one of the best wide receivers that ever to ever play in the game. That's saying something right there. in my
Mike
opinion.
Quick likes him a lot too. Mike Quick in Philly, yeah, he likes him a lot too. I was reading Paul Domowitz's piece. He likes him a lot. And the thing about it, I've seen smallish receivers succeed in the league. Yep. Okay, I've seen them. I go back to when the Redskins or the Washington had the Smirks and all that. Alvin Garrett.
We can even bring up Deshaun Jackson too. When we got Deshaun Jackson back in 2013.
Deshaun Jackson. And Deshaun Jackson did a lot. I mean, here's a guy, he could stretch me out. Now, granted, he got hurt a lot. And you got a lot of those guys. But watching this guy on tape, and he dominated Ohio State in that game. And the thing about Justin Fields, and Ohio State didn't play a bad game, but Alabama had Jalen Waddle. They had all these guys. They had all these guys all over the place, and the fact that Smith knows Jalen Hurts, and I want to talk about Jalen Hurts. I want everybody within our listening audience, if you're listening, tell me what you think of Jalen Hurts. Can he lead this franchise? The conventional wisdom. A lot of people said that he struggled. That he struggled last year. I mean, he didn't struggle. I mean, he only completed 50. Yeah, he only completed 50% of his passes, but there were some other things. The team moved with a different energy, and I think that from an experience standpoint, he's young. He's gonna make mistakes, and I think that had you given him time, had the coaching staff had given him time to win that Washington game, I think that I think he would have done it. The kid has the willingness, he has the spirit, and I think he's smart enough. The guy knows the game. The guy knows the game, and I think they got to give him a chance. I think he can be. I think he can be a winning quarterback.
And most definitely give him a chance to play with his former teammate this year. Yeah. Because, you already know, they already got a good chemistry together. So they're familiar.
Yeah. And both of those guys work, given the guys given the fact that they played, that they played at Alabama, the work ethic is there. The work ethic, like I said again, you're working, you play under that system. You play under that system at Alabama, and I just think at the end of the day, playing under Nick Saban at Alabama, you're gonna come out working hard if nothing else, because that guy didn't play, and you got to come out there. And the fact that Hurts mastered a couple of different systems between Alabama and Oklahoma, you're going to basically, this is the guy. Give him a shot. Give him his shot to shine. Absolutely. Give this guy, his ability, this shot. Because I think, because everybody, all the witnesses, everybody says that this kid works in I hate to call grown men kids. That's just because I'm old. But the thing is that he can play. And I think that he has the ability to get the ball downfield. And I think he can just do it. I think that here's a guy who can play. So let me think. Joe from Germantown, your Cowboys got a lot of defense.
Well, hey Chris, that's a no-brainer. Hey, Chris, how do you and Brother Jordan, how y'all good brothers doing today?
Yeah, we're doing pretty good.
We're doing pretty good.
Praise be to Allah in this beautiful season of Ramadan. I'm glad you and Jordan doing well. It's always an honor and pleasure to talk to y'all. Yeah, as far as the Cowboys are concerned, that's a no-brainer, Brother Chris and Brother Jordan, because with that defense, they couldn't stop a high school or Pop Warner offense and stuff. So they had to get defense. I'm glad the Cowboys got, because we got all the offense we need. We could have got Kyle Pitts, which I knew we weren't going to get. Jones wanted him. That would have been a steal. But without Kyle Pitts, our offense is still going to be potent. But it starts at the defensive end of the ball. And I'm going to tell you a team and I don't even like the guy because of his cheating. And I'm talking about the coach that pictures and his former quarterback down in Tampa Bay, the two cheaters. But I will say this about the cheater. He where he went. It's on the defensive side. He got a guy yesterday, Chris and Jordan. I don't know if y'all paid attention. And the guy should have been an Eagle. Harry Rosen had a chance to get him, but he went and got the offensive lineman, which I understand Eagles need offensive line help. But this kid, Chris, and tell me his name because I forgot the guy's name. If this kid idolizes Reggie White, he was studying Reggie White on film for the last 3 or 4 years. He passed the Eagles after Reggie White. I'm sorry, what's that?
The Eagles didn't get it. The Eagles didn't get him. What team did he go to?
He went to the Patriots.
What team did
Bill Belichick grabbed him.
Oh, Bill Belichick grabbed him. I'm looking at my draft board here now.
Okay.
And
look this up too.
but so from that standpoint, I'm looking at the guy now. But the thing is, I think I would like to have seen the Eagles pick him up, but but then again, they did draft a defensive tackle, and we were on the.
And that's good. But see, my whole thing, Chris. And George, see, Belichick is smart. See, he realizes that. See, last year people running all up and down New England, all through the gut of New England's interior defense. And Belichick said that's not happening again. So he realized if you want to bring the pictures back to the glory years, he got to start with the defensive side of the ball first. So Belichick's doing the right thing. He drafted a bunch of defensive guys, and they did get the quarterback from Alabama, Mac Jones, which I think he may be. See, a lot of them Alabama quarterbacks, except for Jalen Hurts. To me, so far, Jalen Hurts been the best quarterback out of Alabama so far. Because all the other ones been bust. I remember the boy they drafted several years ago when they won the national title.
You don't like Tunga Bailoa? You don't like Tunga Bailoa out of Tua Tagovailoa?
Oh, he's good. He's good. I give him credit. He's good. I forgot him.
Yeah.
Excuse me. He's good. But I'm talking this white guy they drafted 3 years ago. I think when they beat Notre Dame for the national title, they was raving about this guy, about how great he was going to be. Matter of fact, he had proposed to his girlfriend right on TV that night. That guy turned out to be a complete bust. So their history with quarterbacks is not. And matter of fact, they even put a stat up there, Chris. They say even put a stat. They say you have to go back almost to Joe Namath. This for a quarterback to come out of Alabama that was any good. Joe Namath was a good quarterback.
And you forgot Kenny Stabler. Kenny Stabler. He was Alabama boy.
I forgot. You're right. He did come out. I forget because I tell you, I'm getting old. Forgive me. I forgot Snake. And Snake was a great quarterback. I forgot he came out of Alabama. You're right. I forgot the Snake came out of Alabama. You're right. Yeah, but I guess Kenny Stabler and Namath the two best up until this point. Now we got to see how Jalen Hurts and all them other guys do. But you're right, them two was great quarterbacks out of Alabama. You're right, Chris. But yeah, again, Belichick is smart. He started on the defensive side of the ball, working to getting that defense back together, and so he got Cam for another year or two, and hopefully he think Mac Jones may develop into a good quarterback. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I guess Belichick's starting on the defensive side of the ball, because that's where it all starts there. Because Chris, you know yourself, you're a Ravens fan, right? Outside the Eagles, the Ravens your team, right?
Yeah.
I'll close with these last couple of remarks, Chris. Look at the Ravens. You look at the 2 Super Bowls they won. Even when they blew out the I think who they beat Nick, and when they blew out
the Giants. They blew out
the Giants. They blew out the Giants in the Super Bowl. People forget. Even though they blew them out, it wasn't because of a Trent Dilfer. It was because of that defense, man. That defense shuts you down. That Ravens defense under Ray Lewis. And what's that other brother you had, the quarterback, Ed Reed, and the other brother? Those guys shut you down, man.
T. Sizzle, although T. Sizzle wasn't on that team.
What's that, Chris?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right about that. You're right about that. The Ravens had all that talent.
Yeah, offense. Don't get me wrong, because I love offense. Offense sells tickets, but at the end of the day, defense wins championships, man. When you got to shut down defense and stuff, and you just got an adequate offense, you can win the Super Bowl. And Belichick going down that road, he getting that defense together, so he get his offense back, then it'd be a potent team again and stuff like that. But I think Chris, the Cowboys and the Eagles, I think they both did good in the draft. They got the people they wanted, and like I would have preferred the Eagles to get that defensive guy that plays like Reggie White, but you really can't say too much because they need to be good offensive line so they can have somebody to protect Jalen back there. And Chris, let me say this in close because I know you other call want to monopolize all the calls, but let me say about Jalen Hurts. I get so tired, Chris, as a black man, of all these commentators, black and white, saying, he only got 1 year. You know, we don't think he's that good. Like you just pointed out to Jordan just now, this kid know how to deal with adversity. He dealt with going from 2 different programs, from Alabama to Oklahoma. He handled both of them with grace. And he didn't let that. He's strong mentally because he was able to come back to Oklahoma and lead them to prominence. So after this kid is just strong mentally, if you put the right tools around him and stuff, there's no doubt in my mind Jalen going to be a great quarterback in this league, and he's going to get the Cowboys fixed for the next 5 to 10 years. He's going to be him and Prescott battling it out for the NFC East. They're going to be battling it out. This kid, and they're in a good move because getting his teammate, like Jordan said, they got chemistry together. They went out and got Devontae Smith. And I'm kind of like Jordan in a way. As much as I like Devontae, and Devontae's a hell of a player, I would actually prefer them to get Waddle, because Waddle to me is just as good or dangerous and stuff like that. But again, you can't miss with either one of these guys. And I think with Devontae out there, it's going to make Jason Rager a better player. And I think the sky's the limit. Put some more people around him. I think the Cowboys and the Eagles for the next 5 to 6 years going to battle out for the NFC East, Chris. And thank you for letting me express myself, Chris. Thanks a lot, man. Good show as usual, man.
Thank you. Well, and Washington's going to have something to say about that because they have the best defense in the division.
Shoot, that too.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is they still haven't settled their situation at the quarterback spot. And, you know, that's going to be where they need to settle down. The Giants, I don't know what this guy's going to turn into in New York, but, you know, we'll see. We'll definitely see that. But I just think that if Saquon Barkley comes back, that's big for the Giants, but they got to pass the football. So it's going to be the division is going to be interesting now. On the line with us is my man John Mitchell, who can, I don't know, you're a huge Eagles fan, and you covered football, covered NFL, a lot of NBA stuff, obviously. But you know, I want to get your take on this draft situation, because I think that the offense. I question the offensive line. They also pick up this kid Milton Williams out of I want to say Louisiana. Louisiana Tech, I think it is. And they seem to think that he is going to be, I don't know, a pretty good defensive lineman, and I hope he is. But the thing is, we'll see what he can do. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to be skeptical. I'm be skeptical about it, but I do believe that it's a good pick. What are your thoughts?
Hey, thanks for having me on, Chris. The guy Brother Joe was trying to think about was Philadelphia product Christian Barmore, the kid from New Moretti. He is the interior lineman, who's a heck of a one gap penetrator. So I think New England did do well there with that.
Right.
I don't know much about Milton Williams. I know that he tested extraordinarily well at their pro day. He's built along the lines of Malik Jackson. He's not tall as Malik Jackson, but he's a lighter interior tackle who's carrying about 280, 290 pounds on his frame, and is athletic. And what's special about him, he does have that burst off the line. I'm not going to compare him to Aaron Donald because he's a guy with the ultimate burst, for interior linemen. But he's somewhat in that vein. I think they're going for a boom or bust pick at number 2. The kid, the center of Alabama, was a great player when he's healthy. He's a guy who
that's the question.
Yeah, they can switch him. I mean, he's as they like to say, he's a road grader. He's a 6'3", 340, 350-pound guy. And let's be quite honest, the days of, for the last 2 years now, they've had to coach Jason Kelsey to coax him not to retire. I think that could be a good pick. I would have liked to have seen them maybe take, as Joe said, take Barmore and put him in that mix of tackles with Fletcher Cox and Hargrave, but again, he comes from Alabama, but I think he was second in the SEC in sacks at the interior line as an interior lineman. So that always impresses me when you have a guy who get across the line of scrimmage, and he's about 310 pounds. So we'll see. You know, right now everything looks great and grand. I think I was glad to see them. I was very critical of Howie Roseman for moving down in the draft, and so I'll give him kudos for moving back up into a position to get Devontae Smith and to still have those 3 picks in the first round next year. So he gets kudos for that. You know, people, and they had a surplus of draft picks. And if I'm not mistaken, they may have 4 picks in the 6th round today. But they still got a significant number of picks this year. So, and you know, we get into the draft is probably the most phony piece of journalism in sports, because there have probably been, I dare say, 2 million mock drafts published in the United States since in over the last 2 months. It's that much of a crapshoot. I don't know what the Eagles got. I mean, Devontae Smith is 165 pounds. You know, he that's built along the same lines as a little bit. I think Marvin Harrison, he entered the league, was 170 pounds, but Marvin Harrison did turn into a Hall of Fame quarterback with, you know, the caveat being he had a wide receiver. The caveat being he had a Hall of Fame quarterback throwing in the football. We don't know that about, you know, what Jalen Hurts will be. I'm rooting for Jalen. I think he can be a successful quarterback in this league. So, you know, it's early in the draft. I like what the Eagles did. You know, I like what they did. I don't think there's any way you can criticize Devontae Smith. I mean, yeah, he's frail. So was Deshaun Jackson. He gets off the line.
I think he might be better than Jackson too.
I'm sorry.
I think he might be better. I'm saying I think he might be better than Deshaun Jackson. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. He's a special guy. I mean, you don't just imagine with 1,800 yards last year, you know, in the SEC, and we all saw what he did in the national championship game. He was clearly the best player on that field. So I like what they did. You know, I've been critical of Howie Roseman's draft. I think the key to making this, because I'm not really worried about Devontae Smith. I think the key is if the center pans out. You know, if he pans out, then they've replaced a position that will be a question mark, could potentially be a question mark for the next, you know, few years with a guy who does have ability, but he's got to stay healthy. You know, that's a caveat with everybody in here. That's like, you got to stay healthy.
That's true. That's like the best ability available. We got to go to break. Speaking of availability, we got to go to break. You're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM WURD. The Chris Murray Report will be right back.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama, and I wanted to let you know that Barack and I couldn't be more thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine. This is a deadly disease, and we know the vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. It's how we'll start getting back to seeing friends and family and doing all those things we love again. So I hope you'll join me, Barack, and millions of others around the country and get your vaccine as soon as it's available to you. It's safe, it's free, and it could save your life or the life of someone you love. To learn more, just go to cdc.gov/coronavirus. I know it's been a long, hard year, but we can beat back this pandemic. With your help, we can do this.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Tune in Saturdays from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. to hear Empire Capital and Consulting founder Mark Palmer's show titled Black Money, Black Power. This show centers around black money and how black power is derived from money. Tune in every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Black Money, Black Power. Hosted by Mark Palmer.
Word family, the Go to Know campaign for colon cancer is up and running. Go to wordradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner for your free at-home screening test. It's that simple. Click Go to Know and get your test today.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Okay, we are back. I was wondering, George, can you do me a favor? Can you cue up the clip with this is what Devontae Smith had to say about playing with Jalen Hurts. Go ahead.
Jalen kind of taught everybody the game. I mean, he was just one of those guys that was a student of the game, and he kind of taught everybody the game. So when you're getting reps with him, he's always telling you about coverages and rotations and things like that. So, I mean, the connection is there, the chemistry is there, and it's just overall, he just always helped everybody else be better.
And see, that's you know, that is the thing about Jalen Hurts. And I don't know. What I saw last year, I was impressed, and I was just impressed by the energy he gave that offense. And may not be like, I don't know if he can, you know, with his, you know, he's kind of small, but I think that if he has the benefit, if you know, because of the vaccines now, if they are allowed to have mini camp or some form of training camp, I think that's where he gets himself together. What do you think of that, John?
Yeah, he's the guy. I mean, we know that he's an athlete who can overcome quote-unquote adversity. I mean, he got bumped out of starting job at Alabama and went to Oklahoma and continued to have a stellar career and wound up getting drafted in the second round. So obviously, there's a very healthy respect for him as a player in the NFL. If he were a white quarterback, they would be talking more about the quote-unquote adversity he experienced in being benched in the national championship game at Alabama and then going to Oklahoma. But he did, as you said, he generated. He gave the Eagles a shot in the arm. You know, when he was injected into the offense was dead. The team was unresponsive to Carson Wentz, and rightly so, because he had demonstrated no leadership and was, you know, through those 12 games, he was easily the worst starting quarterback in the league after being the recipient of a $128 million contract. So I have him, and also, you know, 2 years ago, you know, when they went into the draft, they said they wanted to get faster. They wanted to, run more jet sweeps and things like that. So quarterback like, and that's what the NFL has become. And you look at the success, which is why, you know, when people, just to deviate a little bit, when people were saying that Mac Jones would be the pick for the 49ers, that's the last thing that the 49ers wanted was a quarterback who's not very mobile under Shanahan's offense. They want to mix it up. They want to run misdirection. They want to get the quarterback moving out of the pocket. Which is why they went for, you know, the kid who is from Carson Wentz's alma mater, the kid from North Dakota State. So,
right.
You know, I think that I think this is good for Jalen Hurts. You know, they made somewhat of a mistake, and when they brought Flacco in, and Flacco, I don't know where Flacco is under the belief that he will actually he'll start if Jalen completely stinks it up early on. That's the only way that he'll start for this team. They didn't bring Joe Flacco in here to be a starter. But however, when they introduced him, he said, you know, I appreciate that. He said that he wanted to play for a starting position. I appreciate that. But he has been in the NFL long enough and has common sense to know that he's not the guy. And the coach, they signed off on that. And Howard Rosen signed off on that. And then you do have to talk about, there has to be competition at your signature call spot unless you've got, you know, an Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady in that position.
Right.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know, one thing about the Eagles and the NFC East, people say the Eagles are in rebuilding mode. You know, the Eagles were in the thick of it to win that division and led that division, I think, up to like week 13.
Yeah.
With an offensive line that was in tatters. You know, if the right side of the Eagles' offensive line, with Lane Johnson and Brooks come back, they're healthy, knock on wood, they're at their age, and it's not an advanced age. They're like 30 and 31, somewhere around there. They can immediately become as good as any right side of the offensive line in the NFL. You know, so if there's some things the Eagles can do to improve the possibility of winning that division. Nobody in that division scares me. You know, I do like what Dallas did in draft. I thought, you know, the kid from Penn State looks as good as anybody in the draft.
Right.
Right. Yeah, he looks as good as anybody. He reminds me of Devin White. I mean, he runs relentlessly, vertically and laterally, which is what you need in linebackers today. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, now answer me this question. I guess, and I'm still, this was a question I was trying to get in when Howie, you know, during the Zoom press conferences was, I'm wondering why is this franchise, maybe in the last 20 to 30 years, not value the linebacker position? I mean, you need good linebackers in this league. And every year, it's like they've always stuck some nondescript guy. I mean, they even ran Jeremiah Trotter out of town because he wanted too much money. And they just bring in every nondescript, you know, maybe average Joe college or Joe ball player to play that position. When you have good linebacker strength, man, you can shut a lot of things down. The Ravens proved that over the years, you know, having Terrell Suggs and Ray Lewis. So can anyone call 215-864-8065, 1-866-361-0900. I wonder why this team does not value the linebacker position.
Yeah, that's been an issue for them. I do like the kid that they signed, Eric Wilson from Minnesota. He's a tackling machine, and I like to see them go back, you know, and get a linebacker in this draft. You know, I did like the kid who was still on the board, the kid from Notre Dame, when the Eagles went to make their second round, and I was hoping, you know, he and Barmore both were still on the board when they went to make that pick. But they do, and that's become a trend in the league. I mean, in my opinion, the league has become more of a 7-on-7 passing league now. You know, teams pass the ball to set up the run, you know, we have seen in this league that if you can get a dominant rushing game, you still can be very effective. But again, the Eagles have taken that to an unusually high level in ignoring that position. I mean, the guy who was out there, we all go back to that game that they lost to Pittsburgh on the last second when Gary was matched up against the rookie linebacker out of Notre Dame and was beaten for that touchdown against the Steelers. And it's like, you know, we just have Manny Moe and Jeff playing linebacker for us for the last few years. And that's got to change. And I do think, you know, in Eric Wilson that they have added this is finally an upgraded linebacker, but they have just ignored that position. And they have issues. And, you know, they have issues at linebacker and they have issues in the secondary that need to be addressed immediately in the draft. So we'll see.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing because, you know, when I look at the Eagles, I look at all parts of the football. They need corners. They need some defensive backs. They need just about everything. And my thing is if they're going to win, if they're going to get back in shape, they've got to basically shore up the offensive line. They're going to basically need some people on, you know, playing linebacker or defense. They're going to need a lot of things, but yet they are in a division. They're in a division that is still relatively winnable. They're in a position that they're in a division that they can win, that anybody can win. But one of the things I didn't see where Washington really upgraded at quarterback, and I mean they got good receivers. They have a decent running game, so we're going to see but their defense is really good. But we'll see how everything shapes itself out because nobody ever seems to want to repeat the NFC East,
right,
and all that. So let me ask. So talking about the scenario, because I'm gonna switch gears we'll switch gears at about the 12 o'clock hour to talk about the Sixers because like the Sixers are now, like I said, last few days they've gotten medieval on some teams, but I gotta say, what has to happen? What has to happen for the Eagles for Jalen Hurts to be successful? What has to happen? I mean, What do you want to see from him, and what do you want to see from the team in general? Because to me, the skeptics are out there. He has the work ethic, but he's got to translate it in the field. So when do we know that Jalen is our guy before we go to break?
I just think more importantly than anything that he has to have run support. He has to have legitimate run support behind him, because even with the addition of Devontae Smith, you don't know exactly what he and Rieger are going to do downfield. So the offensive line has to be healthy, has to come together. The left side has some question marks. Who's going to start at left tackle? But I really believe they have to use the running back from Penn State, the combination of Jordan Howard and who's the running back?
Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders.
Yeah. Get the you have to kind of break with the tradition of the NFL now being this passing league. Give Jalen some run support. You have Dallas Goedert, who can be. And we're yet to see what they're going to do with Zach Ertz. I think he's going to get moved. I just don't know when. But yeah, be able to establish a running game. Give him run support, because that makes. Look what he did for Carson Wentz in his second year. Give him some run support.
No doubt about that. Okay, we got to go to break. Listen to 96.1 FM, 9 AM WURD, the Chris Murray Report. Will be right back.
The Sweet Treat Hut is the highest-rated juice bar in Philly, located on the corner of 50th and Thompson Streets, providing delicious, healthy vegan food, juices, and smoothies. Treat yourself to a cup of happiness. Call 215-877-1471.
The Mattress Man is a second-generation family-owned mattress specialist business since 1988. Open 7 days a week, located at 7421 Stanton Avenue. The Mattress Man discounts Serta, memory foam, orthopedic, and Comfort Tech mattresses every day. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure you get the best price and best service. The Mattress Man offers same-day delivery on most models to most areas. Ask about the WURD discount. Call 215-424-5550.
We are people of resilience, so let's protect our lives with vaccines we can trust. We can do this.
To learn more about COVID-19 vaccines, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
This is WURD Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media.
You're listening to WURD Radio. 96.1 FM. And 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Okay, we're back. And before we start talking about the Sixers, I got to ask you guys a question. Are you looking for a job? Well, WURD has you covered. We just launched a brand new job portal featuring jobs from some of Philadelpia's leading companies and arts organizations. If you go to the portal right now, you will see jobs from WURD Radio, the Kimmel Center, Hair Foods, Always Best Care, WURD Radio, and more. Apply for a job today. Go to our livelihood website at wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com and click jobs. Okay, we are back. Now, that said, your Philadelphia 76ers, Lord have mercy. Your Sixers, now granted, we're picking on teams that we ought to beat. We ought to whoop them and all that. Last night, looking at the box scores, the Hawks jumped out to a lead last night, and you're thinking, oh boy, okay, maybe it's because the Sixers were tired and whatever, they were tired from beating Atlanta the previous night. They came back in and whooped them again. It was from 126-104, and they took over that game quickly. They're now a half a game. Let me look at my standings that I have posted here. Look at my standings right now. Your Philadelphia 76ers are 42-21. A half a game out of first place with the New Jersey Nets, and basically they are about a couple of games ahead. 2.5 games ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks, who beat the Sixers handily last Saturday. That was brutal to watch. But the thing is that Ben Simmons is finally back. How much, John, does Ben Simmons make in that lineup. Even even though we all like to question about his ability to not shoot the basketball well.
Well, if you've been watching the Sixers, I know you have. Over the last 3 weeks, Ben hasn't been playing that well. And what having covered this league for so many years, what I see with Doc is Doc recognizes that Ben's confidence was starting to go in the wrong direction. He was shooting the ball even less. He's still playing great defense, but his confidence on the court was starting to wane. In the last few games, it's good to have a team like Atlanta for back-to-back. You can get well against a team like Atlanta. But Ben, in these last 18, however many games are left in the season, the Sixers
9 games.
How many?
9 games left in the season. They got 9 games.
Okay. So this is the time they're getting players. Doc is allowed to rest players. You want to rest Joel. You want to rest, Ben. The guys someone had these injuries, mid to the latter part of the season. And, you want to go into the playoffs because I still don't know. I think Brooklyn, a healthy Brooklyn team, and when I say a healthy Brooklyn team, I say a Brooklyn team with 2 of their 3 superstars healthy, really healthy, in the playoffs. I still think they're the best team in the Eastern Conference, But the 76ers are a much better defensive team. They, and what's going to be crucial, if I'm not mistaken, Brooklyn and Milwaukee play back-to-back games, maybe this weekend through Tuesday. They've got back-to-back games. So it will be important for the Sixers to get that home court advantage because even with empty arenas, the Sixers still play. They play up a level. They're very tough at home. So you'd like to see them get that home court advantage, be the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and then let the Sixers fall where they may. But it is good to see Ben playing with more confidence because his confidence was clearly waning over the last 3 weeks. I know he missed a few games with a non-COVID related illness recently, but prior to that, his confidence was waning. And then it got to the point where Joel even mentioned it, and that speaks to his maturity because in the past he wouldn't do things like that. So the Doc Rivers effect has been completely felt over the course of the season. They've made some key additions. They brought in veteran guard play. I like where the Sixers are. For me, the 76ers don't have to win it. This is not they have to win a championship because if you look at their primary competition, Brooklyn's all their best players. KD is what 33, 34. They're starting to creep up. Harden. He's they're going to begin going down the hill before the Sixers enter their prime. So we'll see. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, my thing at the end of the day with the Sixers is, stay healthy. Stay healthy because I think that even with, and I'll venture to say, even with KD, even with Durant, even with James Harden, I think the Sixers do have a chance to win that series. I honestly believe that if they got there, if they got to the Eastern Finals, I think that they have the squad to meet them in a 7-game series. It's gonna be tough though.
A healthy Brooklyn team.
Yeah, I think they.
I don't see it, Chris. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news.
No. But okay, you don't necessarily see it, and I'm curious why. Why? I see where you're coming from.
You know why? Because I think a healthy KD is as good as Ben Simmons is as defensively. I think he's the best defensive player in the league. We can have discussions some other time, but I just don't think if KD is healthy and Harden is back out there playing the way he was before he got hurt. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he has a hamstring injury. That's always problematic. If I'm not mistaken, he's got a hamstring. But if he's back there hitting that step back jumper and leading the league in assist as he was, during that, before he got hurt, and Kyrie doing the magical things he does. And the NBA has become a league where, the team with the greatest offensive arsenal usually wins now. There's no question in my mind that Golden State's been healthy against Toronto 2 years ago. The Golden State, if they don't lose Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant, Golden State wins that series. I have any doubt in my mind. So I hope you're right. And as a fan of the NBA that watches a league now that has removed the ability to play defense effectively, and has taken, the league has taken physicality completely out of the game. The NBA wanted to make the game more Europeanized and have shooters taking threes and just, get away from the isolation ball. In the process, what they've done is they've made the league very soft. They've made the league very soft. Where defense we say defense wins championships. I think ultimately it does win championships in the NFL. I think offense wins championships. Particularly if you have a team with three players who would probably make the dream team. That's a decided advantage for Brooklyn moving forward. But I hope I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I'm not saying. Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying the Sixers are capable of winning, but you're right. KD, when KD is healthy, he's hard to beat. So, which leads me to asking this question: can anybody in the Eastern Conference beat, say, the Lakers or whoever's coming out of there? The Phoenix Suns are really starting to play well. Chris Paul has put that team on his back. So is anybody out of the East capable, between Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Philadelphia, as the top three seeds in the Eastern Conference? Which one of those teams is better equipped? Let's say they meet the Lakers or any of the 11 teams in the NBA final. I don't even know if the Lakers are going to get out of the first couple of rounds, but
that's $1 million question.
Who's capable of winning the finals out of the East?
Yeah, I go with Brooklyn, Chris. I think I watched Brooklyn play, and as well as Phoenix is playing with Chris Paul, and God, they're fun to watch. They're fun to watch. I don't think that. I think Brooklyn can beat anybody, but the caveat again was if healthy. I thought the Lakers were going to repeat, like most people. I thought the Lakers would repeat, but the injuries have finally caught up to LeBron.
Right. Yeah. The injuries have caught up to the Lakers, and I still say that I think the West is up for grabs. I think anybody can win the West. It depends on, like we said, who's healthy. Anybody can win the West. So 215-634-8065. Want to hear your thoughts about the Sixers, Eagles, anything today, social justice and sports media. I got to talk about something that I heard about the other day through watching Stephen A. Smith talking about Julius Erving. Julius Erving, apparently, Dr. J basically pointed out something about who his top 5 players were and kind of snubbed LeBron James. And I just want to get your thoughts on that, because I don't know, there's this sort of resentment of LeBron James, making his own, being in effect his own GM and his own guy who's going to manage his career. A lot of people aren't necessarily, enamored with LeBron about that. And then, LeBron James, like I said, he was snubbed by Julius Erving on his Hall of Fame team, mainly because Erving, mainly because LeBron, picked his own guys, but at the same time, when they the Sixers added Moses Malone in 1983, you know, they in effect, you know, they made a decision. So what's the difference between a guy choosing his own team and a guy letting the you know, general manager do it? Is Dr. J right? The right to do that?
I mean, Dr. J, he's a legend. He's a doctor. He revolutionized that game from '76, the NBA, until he retired, until he handed the baton to Michael Jordan. So yeah, he has every right to be critical. I mean, we live in a society where everybody gives their 2 cents on everything. I mean, we had an imbecile president who, when he should have been running the country, was talking about Black Lives Matter and being critical of athletes in that situation.
Right. No, I mean, because I'm glad. I mean, I think that yeah, Doc is entitled to his own opinion, but I think yeah. Go ahead. No, I was thinking that sounded more like "get off my lawn."
Yeah, it is. It is get off my lawn.
But it sounds like more like you can't get off my lawn. You know.
Well, one day you'll hear. We'll hear "get off my lawn" coming from LeBron James. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, you'll hear
live long enough and you'll hear somebody else "get off my lawn."
Yeah, get off my lawn. But you know, to me, as I look at it, with LeBron James, Jordan, I see number one, and nobody ever mentions Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as one of the greatest players. I don't get that, and I don't get that in terms of, you know, people from, you know, across the country and all that, saying, you know, people forgetting about how great Kareem was. The man, Kareem was just like, you know, just the man. We got Joseph from Massachusetts. Joseph, what's happening?
Hello?
Yes, come on in.
Yeah, Joseph from Massachusetts. Yeah. LeBron James. Did you ever heard, Chris, you ever heard of the Syracuse 8 black players who protested the Syracuse team? I think they won the championship, the 96 Jim Brown Old School.
Yeah, I've never heard them, but you know, enlighten me today.
All right, well, the thing is, they protested rules like the black players couldn't date white girls at Syracuse in 1967, 68, and they did all kinds of stuff to fight the system. Now, Jack Johnson, the first heavyweight boxing champ in the world, they had laws that you couldn't cross state line married with a white woman. He defied that. Muhammad Ali defied the Vietnam draft. No Vietnamese ever called me the N-word. Now, John Carlos and Tommy Smith, 1960 in Mexico City Olympics, they protested the suffrage of black. Many times through history, the problem with LeBron James, the commercialized sports in America and the world was football, soccer. We exploited hello?
Yes, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to finish up. We're exploiting we're mixing in talent with ability to understand the issue. LeBron James did not understand the issue. I don't want to say because he didn't go to college or anything, but that had to have something to do with it. Because most of the political activists took part in the colleges, like Kent State, the anti-Vietnam War. LeBron James didn't have that 4 or 5 years experience if he read it. So he needs to just be cool and chill and learn from the older head. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Anyway, thanks for taking my time. Any questions before I go?
No questions. But I'll ask you when you hang up. But here's the thing with that. LeBron James has done a lot. He's done a lot for young black men and women with schools and things, and things of that nature. And I'm just at a point where, LeBron doesn't have to be, like Malcolm Jenkins and, having the Players Coalition and all that. He doesn't have to do that. But I like that he does lend his voice. He does put himself out there. We have Maurice from Southwest Philadelphia. Man, I miss you. Where you been?
And I've been so busy doing my honorary chest that I have of Chris Mary, man. I've just been admiring it. That's all I've been doing. I am Chris Berry, as I always say. I think he missed out on a golden opportunity to be the king of the city, man. Everything I said before about opening up the rec centers and setting all that stuff up, now all of a sudden everybody wants to do that now. But I was talking about that over a year and a half ago, about having the rec centers, having a place for good kids to go. Now all of a sudden they're talking to the young people. Now all of a sudden everybody's thinking of it, but they don't want to give me no credit for telling it to them.
Right,
but this is what I'm saying. I have got myself in a little trouble. I have accused a lot of people, especially hosts on these shows, about being Tim Scott. And the reason I say that is not because he's a Republican, not because he made a fool out of himself at the last week, but because he was trying to defend the undefensible. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about our city government. They are trying to we have people that want to defend the undefendable. You know, they know what has to be done. They're not the elite. They grew up just like we grew up, right in Philly. They know what we need, but they refuse to give it to us. But they always like to say, hey, it's the Republicans' fault, when they know the money was given to them, but for some reason it doesn't make it down to us. Now, back to sports. The reason I think that Dr. J said that, a lot of the old heads look at LeBron James. Not that they don't think, they know he's a great player and one of the best of all time, but they look at him as a mercenary more than, you know, back in the day you were loyal to your team. You didn't jump from team to team. You stayed with that team, whether it was bad times or good times, until you came back up. And that's, I think a lot of old heads look at him as, well, you know, he's a great player, so he's just looking for the best deal. And they didn't have the opportunity to do that. It might be jealousy, but that's why I think a lot of old heads don't give him that same recognition because of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but see, here's what I have to say about that, though, is that Wilt Chamberlain played for the didn't he play for the Philadelphia Warriors and the Sixers and the
but they were the same team, though. That's the same team, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
LeBron goes from city to city. That's a whole different thing. He go across the country. Back in the day, they weren't allowed to do that, even though he has the option to do that now. But I think in the old head's mind, even though it's not right, they think of, look, man, you started in Cleveland, you finished in Cleveland. Unless you had to make a move for a reason, then maybe you go to another team, but not go to 3 or 4 teams. And every time you're trying to put a super squad together, they don't look at that as being one of the best, because some of the best guys that Dr. J picked, they were loyal to their team, whether they was 0-13 or they was 13-0. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the thing is, though, but it depends on who's controlling it. Like I said again, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, remember, made his career in Milwaukee, won a championship, and I know that personally because I saw him sweep my Baltimore Bullets out of the playoffs in '71. Okay,
so them guys only went to 2 teams, man. LeBron was his 3rd or 4th team.
Yeah, 3rd or 4th team, but you know what it is.
I'm not agreeing with it, but I'm just saying that's how they look at it. Just like now, the music that we used to listen to, our hip hop. We look at the new hip-hop like, you know, come on, man. They might think their rappers is the greatest ever, but we look at them like, come on, man. There ain't no way they touch the guys that we came up with. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just the way how different people look at it. But, Chris, you still got the opportunity to be the sports czar of Philadelphia if you want to take on that task. Because right now, summertime is coming. We need all the sports events and these rec centers up and moving, and we need somebody with your kind of genius behind that, because obviously the city don't know what they're doing. They're a year and a half behind what they should have been doing. We'd have to have a place for good kids, and you know who good kids are, to have a place to go, because we don't have a place for them to go with the heat and the way this city is. We might hit 600, 700, so we better find something for these kids to do instead of taking an alternative, and I think you're just the man to do.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that compliment. If I could do it, yeah, I would. I mean, although I would always tell people that if I were to embark on that type of endeavor, Education, reading, and writing, all those things would be included in all that. And I say that from my experiences. I teach freshmen at Bowie State University, and that's neat. Okay, we gotta go to break. When we come back from break, I got BG and Maurice from North Philadelphia. I'm gonna get to BG, and then I'll come back, and then John will also mix in. You're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM WURD, the Chris Murray Report. I'll be right back.
The Sankofa Freedom Academy Charter School is an African-centered public freedom school that is looking for experienced, certified teachers in kindergarten through 12th grade for the 2021-22 school year. These positions are full-time and come with full health, vision, dental, and retirement benefits. Salary is comparable to the School District of Philadelphia. Interested parties should send their resume and cover letter via email to careers@sfacs.us. For more information, visit sfacs.us.
The Pennsylvania Horticultural Society supports WURD and presents the 2021 Philadelphia Flower Show, Habitat Nature's Masterpiece, June 5th to 13th. Now blooming outdoors for the first time ever at FDR Park in South Philadelphia. Safely enjoy 15 acres of blooming gardens and artful floral displays, shopping, entertainment, and new food and beverage options, including park picnics and beer gardens, taking place outdoors this summer. Tickets and details available at phsonline.org.
Livelihood, WURD Radio's new initiative, connecting Black Philadelphians with jobs, entrepreneurship resources, small business development information, and financial literacy tools. Tune in to WURD Radio for our weekly livelihood segments and every weekday show. For a full schedule, visit wurdradio.com/livelihood. For more information on livelihood, visit wordworks.com. That's WURDWORKS.com. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent Black media.
Okay, we are back. We're talking about Dr. J and Sixers and all this other stuff, get off my lawn and all those other things. We have Maurice from North Philadelphia. BG, if you're out there, still call us back.
Hello?
Okay, Maurice. What's going on? What's
hey, Chris, good morning. My question is, how do LeBron surpass Wilt or Bill Russell, Elgin Baylor? If you go back and listen to Dr. J news conference, or not conference, press thing he did with Stephen A. Smith, he said before I came along, before Connie Hawkins came along, Elgin Baylor was doing what we was doing. My question is, do you have two dudes that transform and revolutionize the NBA? That's Wilt Chamberlain and Dr. J. No one else done that. Now, LeBron is a great player. He do a lot for his community. Wilt Chamberlain do over 200 charities nobody even talk about.
Right.
He started this side. Jackie Jordan and Kirsten got the track thing going as kids out in California. Wilt Chamberlain he put the money up for the track thing for them. He came to Philly and talked about it when they was trying to get the stamp done for him. So this is the things we have to talk about. We have to do our homework on what these guys done, who are the legendaries. Well, Chamberlain have over 200 records in the NBA.
Okay.
He averaged 50 points. He led the league in scoring. That's almost 60 or 70 points a game.
Yeah, that's true. But let's be quiet. I'm an old high school graduate, and I had the utmost respect for Wilt. But Wilt only won 2 titles. Now, I understand that in saying that the Boston Celtics had more talent than Wilt did. But let's also be honest in looking at what the NBA was in the 60s and the 50s. It was a mostly white league. There were great black athletes who were not participating in that league. That's America's fault because America has been a racist country for 4 centuries. That's a different conversation. But let's be quite honest. It's just like when you look at Major League Baseball prior to Jackie Robinson. There's a league flush with white athletes, with all these black athletes that we've never heard of didn't participate in it. When Wilt was playing, he was, and let's be honest, Wilt was high jumping 6'8" with the Fosbury flop, was hurdling 6'8". Phenomenal athlete. Would have been the greatest big man probably in any era he played in. So you you can't, going into the time machine about athletics, when the black athlete was not free to be the black athlete, it kind of dismisses any argument prior to that. Now they realize that the black athlete must be present to make the hundreds of billions of dollars they make, so they don't see that color. So they flood these leagues with black athletes, and they want the black athletes to thrive because America, in its sick and twisted way, will put on a pedestal a black athlete and almost look beyond his blackness, if that makes sense to you.
Make a lot of sense.
Okay, well, let me say this about and I'm sorry about that, Miss. I'll get back to you. Give me a second. I want to make this point about LeBron, where I think he's legendary, and I think he belongs on one of their lists. Get off my lawn, notwithstanding, is the fact that he took control of his own body and his own career, and that's the thing that I think that the old heads, all due respect to Julius Erving, one of my favorite players of all time, that's what LeBron did. He took it. He said, "Look, if I want to control, my body," and the thing is, we and black people, that's always been an issue for us is having that self-determination, and it's such to a point that it's a principle of Kwanzaa, the whole thing of self-determination. That's what I think LeBron did. And Maurice, let me let you get to your point. Go ahead.
LeBron is probably the best businessman in the NBA. That's not what I'm disputing. When you look at the history of players that Dr. J picked, besides Jerry West, there's no, how can you debate with that? You take them guys 13 years, you take LeBron 13 years, he's not even there yet. These guys set the bar so high, Bill Russell and Chamberlain and Baylor, if you take what they did in 13 years, and they went to college. LeBron didn't go to college. We can't forget Kobe didn't start till like his third year. He's not even yet.
And I hear you, man. I do hear you. It's always difficult to go into, but more so with the NBA, because if you look at the NBA has changed. It's now a three-point shooting contest.
It's a different game. Yep.
Let's call it. It's a different. They're not even playing the same game. The beautiful game that the Sixers and the Lakers and the Celtics played, the fast break game with multiple touches on possessions. You don't see that game. On a fast break now, everybody runs to the three-point line and is like, here, throw the ball to me so I can
hate
open
that.
check. And I can't stand it either. We're used to seeing players crash to the rim. But Dr. J has the right to say whatever he wants to say, because I agree with you. He is a revolutionary of the game. Mm-hmm. You're free to disagree with him, but you're also talking about a guy who was the boyhood hero to everybody in their 40s and 50s right now. So
that's true.
If you look at Dr. J, if you look at what he may have been the best open court player to ever play the game. You look at some of those dunks on Bill Walton. You look at the play, the layup under the basket. You look at the fast break slam on Michael Cooper in the finals. You don't see that stuff in today's game.
I still see Michael Cooper flying out of the way. I can still see him with his head, holding his head, flying out of the way. I mean, that, see, and this is where, and I'm not disagreeing with Maurice on the basketball court, but I do think that, a lot of times it's easy for a lot of us. I do that with music. I still say the funk. I still believe in the funk, nothing but the funk, and that's what I believe. But yet I've learned over the years, I can appreciate, you can appreciate Jay-Z, you can appreciate Cardi B or some of these other kids that are out here today. They're not bad. I mean, like I say, if you look on Instagram, every young girl is trying to dance like her and all that. So that's fine for this era. But I
but if you didn't listen, Chris, just go play Public Enemy's Night of the Living Basshead and listen to that lyrical wizardry and how it reflected the time and the era we were living in, and then compare it to this lazy, droned-out stuff you're listening to now.
Yeah, I would agree. No, I would not. Public Enemy sucks. I mean, Public Enemy, Chuck D's 2 years older than me, and so no, I agree with you on that. I'm with that. You know, I'm like that. But you know, I just kind of think at the end of the day, and I'm trying to get away. Get away from you kids over there. You just don't know. I mean, I'm trying to get away from that. Can we get BG in here? Because I forgot BG was on. BG, thank you for your patience, dude. We got a lot.
You know,
I'm doing.
Dr. J sound like a slave who missed the good old days of picking cotton. That's what he sounds like.
I
listened to Charles Barkley one time. When I was in my prime, I thought I could beat everybody. Well, you were stupid then. It's a team sport. And what LeBron is a black person who's free. He empowered himself. Them guys wishing the white man made the deal for them. You know, I remember when Kobe was crying after they was up 3-1 to Phoenix and they lost the next 3 games. Oh, I need help. They need to get me Jason Kidd. I can't play with it, buying them and all that. And they went and bought him Paul Gasol. LeBron empowered himself. He represents black empowerment. And a lot of these guys was dumb. He's smarter than them, that's all. He was smart enough to say, hey, if they're going to base this thing on winning rings and my GM is going to bring me Eric Snow, then I'm going to go out and get my own players. That's all he did. It was smart. It was brilliant. He took control of his career. And because we have a mentality of not ownership, not empowerment, we can't relate to what he did.
I think that's a completely unfair statement. I hear your point, but you cannot disregard the shoulders on which LeBron stands on now. You cannot disregard
the shoulders
you cannot disregard the Marty Cheek, the Muhammad Ali's, the Bill Russells. I hear what you're saying, but he has more economy to work with now, and it's because of what happened prior to him. So before we start making slave references to Dr. J, we need to contextualize everything.
I would agree with that 100%.
He never spoke out. He never stood up, just like Michael Jordan and the rest of them. You know, a lot of these old heads, I'm 59, were crackheads and everything else. So it's a generational bias. But don't get mad at the Jay-Z's. You know what LeBron reminds me of? MC Hammer. I remember when Hammer, everybody attacked him because he tried to make his brand bigger and called him a sellout and all that. Now everybody's trying to make their brand bigger. You know, but hip-hop was all exclusively considered black, and he tried to take some white folks' money, Asian money, Hispanic money, which is smart business, and he got ridiculed for that, and now everybody's doing it. Just like LeBron has laid a new blueprint, and then now everybody's doing it. The old heads, because they were dumb and weren't smart enough to do it, are mad. That's all.
Let me say this. Well, let me jump in here and say this. I'm not going to say that those guys were dumb. I think that those guys weren't dumb. Those guys were kind of playing with the hand that they were dealt, like a lot of us. I mean, that was the days of when the owners had held power and held sway over these teams between Chamberlain, Dr. J, and all that. I mean, and the thing is, there was a time when there was, like I say, the Sixers, well, I would say pre-Harold Katz were, Dr. J was loyal. I mean, and it's nothing. I'm not going to call Julius Erving, dumb. I will never do that here. And BG, I can, we can agree to disagree. And like I said, I welcome your perspective. I can disagree with it. We can still, we still cool. That's the thing. But I'm not going to call Julius Erving dumb for that. I mean, he dealt with the power that they dealt with, and is there a little bit of envy? Yeah, a lot of those guys wish they had they had the ability to determine, where they wanted to go and wanted to play. I mean, that's the thing Kurt Flood fought for. Kurt Flood fought for that. I mean, that's where, and the thing is, because Kurt Flood fought for it, it made it possible for LeBron James. Y'all understand what I'm saying? I mean, it's just one of those things. I'm not going to call Julius Erving dumb. I'll disagree with him not having LeBron, because LeBron, I think, from a pure basketball standpoint, I mean, LeBron James might be the greatest stat sheet stuffer of all time. Nobody has ever led the NBA Finals in every single category. You know, and I know, and I'm not saying that Wilt is not one of the best. I'm just saying that you know, to do it in the NBA Finals and winning a championship, that's a big thing. No, I'm not going to say he's on the same. I mean, Wilt Chamberlain has done so many things. Good Lord, I can't take anything from Wilt Chamberlain, but I'm also trying to give credit. You know, give LeBron his due. You know, respect the man while he's playing today. And I gave Jordan his when he was playing. He was the greatest. I mean, but when these guys are out here today and still active, you know, I'm gonna give them the flowers now. You know, while they're doing what they can do, and that's my view of it. I'm not going to take away anything from what Wilt did, Bill Russell, certainly not Dr. J. Good Lord, Dr. J made me smile a lot growing up watching him play. He's one of the greatest players of all time, and he brought the Rucker, he brought West Baltimore, he brought West Philly, he brought all of the way we view the game, the way all of us, including BG. Including everybody here, he brought the playground. It's like between him and Al McGuire. I say Al McGuire brought it to the broadcast. They brought the streets to the game. I mean, they brought how we internalize and interpret the game to the game. All those guys did that. You know what I'm saying? So
well, there's a currency. There is a currency of newness to everything in our society, and I'll just point to Mahmoud Rauf refusing to stand and acknowledge the national anthem, turning his back on the national anthem. And now when Colin Kaepernick does it, God bless, and I love me some Colin Kaepernick, let me preface that. But there have been athletes for years, black athletes for years, who have refused to acknowledge the national anthem. So I understand black athletes continue to stand on the shoulders of athletes who was there before. Dr. J has every right to be critical of LeBron. I think he's wrong, but you know, I wouldn't call Dr. J dumb either. That's just me.
Yeah, I'm not going to call Julius Erving dumb and all those players. I mean, you know, you deal with the hand that's given to you. You know, I mean, you know, I look at when Joe Louis fought, and you know, he couldn't wave his hand over his white opponents and all this other stuff. And I think that, you know, in opening up the door, you know, sometimes you have to put up with certain things, especially in this country if you're black. And I'm not saying that that's ever right. I mean, Jackie Robinson should never have had to go through, you know, what he went through to integrate the game. Joe Louis should have been free to be like any other fighter. You want to date somebody, white or black, and that's on him. You know, let him make the choice. I mean, why do we have to go through, you know, all these hoops? But a lot of those guys did that because they saw the greater good. I mean, you know, Ali does stand on the shoulders of Joe Louis, Jack Johnson, and every other black heavyweight who never made it there. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, I think, you know, and like I say again, we all can agree to disagree. You know, I disagree with Dr. J, you know, in terms of his list and all that. I disagree with him. You know, I think LeBron's one of the greatest players to play the game. And, you know, whether he's, you know, above a Wilt Chamberlain, I mean, I'm sure all my Sonny Hill fans would tell me probably not. And is he above, you know, I mean, nobody ever talks about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, Jordan, I mean, seriously, no one ever talks about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And yet no one could stop the sky hook. It is a wonder that no one has ever tried to learn the sky hook. And, you know, to me, Jabbar was probably the greatest scorer of all time in my estimation. But, you know, he doesn't get the same kind of juice as MJ. And that's not taking anything away from MJ. I'm just saying that in the pantheon of all-time greats in the NBA, surely there must be room for a Kareem. Surely no one talks about Kareem, and especially nobody who saw him play. And that's another thing. Before I know we got to go to break soon, and before I get back on my high horse, I wish that even though you did, like I said, I didn't grow up in the 1940s, right, or 1930s and 40s to see Joe Louis, but I know Joe Louis is still one of the all-time greats. I didn't see Otto Graham or Sid Luckman or Willie Thrower, the black quarterback, but I know that they were good quarterbacks, okay? I caught the tail end of Johnny Unitas, tail end of his career. And he was still, I watched Unitas in 1 year lead a team to a Super Bowl. I've seen, I got a chance to see Frank Rowell. I got a chance to see some of the greatest players, even as a young man and whatnot. But what I don't like in the mentality of sports talk radio and all that is this idea, well, I didn't see those guys play. Well, we got YouTube, we got all these things you can film. You can still make an evaluation from all that. John, are you back with us now?
I am.
Okay. What I was basically saying was, I don't like this mentality. Well, it was before my time. If you're in our profession, you got to have that sense of history. In my opinion, because one more thing, boy. It's like I told people, like a couple of people, I was somewhere, and I basically said that what the 49ers tried to do to the Chiefs in Super Bowl, in the last Super Bowl that they were in, that the 49ers actually mirrored the old Chiefs in Super Bowl IV against the Vikings. But that's just, I didn't see that. Well, I'm a witness. There's nothing wrong being a witness. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a lot of people weren't familiar with Adam Clayton Powell, but you respect the greatness from a different era. That's the whole thing. I would suggest when it comes to a player like Will Chamberlain and Dr. J, there's plenty of video footage for you to go look at. And before you start making determinations as to who could play in what era and who can't play in what era, go back and look at how the era was played. Go look at how the game has changed. If you are just used to the NBA since the evolution of the league after the formation of the Golden State Warriors, then if that's where your point of reference begins, you're not going to have any idea of the isolation game and the physicality of the 1990s and in the early 2000s, even when Kobe Bryant was still playing in the league in the early stages of his career. Like I always like to say is, how would any of these, how good would a young Wilt Chamberlain right out of the University of Kansas, when he was literally hurling 6'8" in the high jump and running the leg on the 4x400 meter relay team, how would he look in this so-called League of Athletes? How good would he be? When I was covering the Washington Wizards, Steve Weiss and I, formerly the Washington Post and now with the NFL Network, would sometimes laugh and say, how would, a player we covered for quite some time was Brendan Haywood. And we would all say, how would Brendan Haywood stick Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Akeem Olajuwon, or Wilt Chamberlain, or Moses Malone? There's a guy getting a $40 million contract. So the eras are so different now. The league is played so different now. The NFL is played different now. Are the athletes faster and more amped up and more finely tuned and with significantly better nutrition? Absolutely they are. But you can also make the argument that if a Jim Brown or a Walter Payton were coming up in this era, and if Walter Payton were catching screen passes out of the backfield in space, how good would he be? With the training and the nutrition that's available to athletes now. You have to be realistic about all the changes. Mm-hmm. If you're going to get that, let's compare eras. Look at the heavyweight boxing division. It's been evolving into these massive athletes now. Right. You look at Tyson Fury, 6'9", 260 pounds, or whatever. He's not overly skilled, but when he puts his arms on your shoulders, he can pretty much do whatever he wants to. from a standpoint of throwing a hook, a jab, or whatever he wants to do. It's evolution, Bob.
That's true. Hey, John.
Mm-hmm.
We got to go to break. But hold that thought. I'm going to bring you back with that. That's a very good point. Got to go to break. We listen to 96.1 FM, 90 AM, WURD, the Chris Murray Report. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama. Barack and I are so thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine because this is a deadly disease, and this vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. Getting vaccinated is safe, and it could save your life and allow us to start getting back to seeing friends and family again. We can do this. To learn more, go to cdc.gov/coronavirus.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Spring forward with premium nutrition meals. Enjoy a variety of new exciting entrees along with rewards and referrals program that pays you to eat and tell. As always, everything is chef crafted, freshly prepared, and delivered to your door. Just visit premiumnutritionmeals.com, where listeners get $10 off 6 meals or more. Enter code PREMIUMWORD at checkout.
Want the latest in word swag?
Check out the shop tab on WURDradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WURDradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black.
Talk media.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent black media.
Okay, we are down the stretch. They come. I gotta say that it's Derby Day. Down the stretch. We're talking about comparing eras because, like I said, Dr. J, talked about some of the and the thing about I say one of the things, even though this medium has been beneficial to me a little bit. The thing I find interesting about sports talk, and I remember I had friends back in the D.C. area, and because I am somewhat, even though I'm aged considerably, I mean sometimes I'll think of things that I've seen 40 and 50 years ago, and John, you were saying that a lot of these things haven't changed. I still remember backs always caught the football out of the backfield, right?
Right.
I still remember, I saw Lydell. I was at the game between the Colts and the Jets, with two sorry teams in 1974, where Mitchell had set the record, the NFL record for the most receptions by a running back in a season. The next year, Chuck Foreman broke the record. Guys were always, we saw Roger Craig, we've seen Marshall Faulk, we've seen, a lot of people, everybody. And it seems to me that whether it's football, basketball, or whatever, that I'm gonna quote the legendary Shirley Bassey when it's all about history repeating. I mean, nothing really is new under the sun. What do you think about that, John? You were talking about that earlier.
No, it's just that you see an evolution. The training is obviously better, and athletes, people, the human body evolves over time. But the game is these games can, particularly basketball, it's a 3-point shooting contest, as we were saying. Guys are on the fast break and they run to a spot on the around the perimeter and they look to shoot a 3-pointer. And it seems to take the value off of each possession. There seems to be more of a value to possessions in the NBA. My point was about when I was making the point of a guy like, say a guy like Walter Payton. Walter weighs about 200, 205, maybe 210. If he comes along now with advanced training, with the nutrition of 2021, Walter Payton may weigh 225. And be higher, more finely tuned as an athlete because of what's available to him in training. So you have to appreciate each era for what it is. I'm a huge defender of LeBron James from the standpoint of what he does, from a social standpoint. I love LeBron James. I do look at a guy from my era, Michael Jordan, and I'm critical of him. Now he's doing some more things, but I'm critical of Michael. and I'll always be critical of him because of, his position that, Republicans wear sneakers too. That just is a blatant disregard.
That still bothers me too.
Yeah, it bothers me too, for the needs of your people, So you have to give, you just have to, it's a changing world. I think a lot of the bitterness that we were talking about earlier, of say, the athletes who are critical of the athletes of today is because, how much would you have to pay Dr. J if he were playing today's game?
Right.
How much would you have to pay Will Chamberlain if he were playing in today's game? And getting back to Will, Will, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Will a supporter of Richard Nixon?
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's not.
I'll stand on that. Will supported Richard Nixon, so we can be critical of him as well. And I'm a proud to Overbrook High School, as is he. So,
right.
Let's just be quite honest of what we do know about these historical figures.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is I don't like to get into, we talk about errors, but the thing is you gotta appreciate. I appreciate all the errors in sports. I appreciate today in sports. I love the fact that in football the quarterback is a threat to run, and I like that. I mean, that's one of the carryovers from college football that I like. I like the fact that the quarterback can be a dual threat. And like I always tell you, if Lamar Jackson ever got really accurate or got funky in the passing game, it's Katie Bar-the-Door. He's going to be one of the all-time greats. But my thing is that, and I would even say in music, as much as I'm never a big fan of Snoop Dogg. I like some of his stuff, but I never liked the misogyny, and I never liked the glorification of black people killing each other. I respect their success, and I respect their success in the sense that, guys like Jay-Z and people, they were able to change the bargain, change the power with the music industry. Guys like Dr. Dre. You got to give Dr. Dre credit because a lot of those producers empowered themselves. And this is what LeBron has done when it comes down to sports, is the fact that, I like the idea that, and like I said again, and the person, and I've said this earlier, the person folks ought to thank, all these players, millionaire players, and in some cases, like Patrick Mahomes close to billionaire status. Kirk Flood not stood out and said, look, you will not have the right. And Kirk Flood lost a lot. We don't give Kirk Flood enough credit. Because if it were not for Kirk Flood, you would not have had Dave McNally and Manny Messersmith. Reggie Jackson wouldn't have really made the kind of money that he ended up making in his career and all these other things. Everybody, LeBron James, the whole concept of him, being able to control his own destiny would not have been thought of had it not been for the people. And this is why I say, again, I respect the people. You may not, from the early days of hip hop and message rap and the funk and all these other things, Last Poets and all that, being from that era, I may not necessarily like the sounds of Jay-Z and the misogyny and glorifying drug dealing and all this other stuff. I respect the fact that they established their own bargain with the music industry and they empowered themselves. Ice Cube, all those guys, you gotta give them credit for that because you do. But then again, being older, you don't always like the kind of Jordan. I'm sure that years from now, as we're about to go off the air, I'm about to see your invisible finger. But Jordan, you're gonna be us one day. And like I said, you will be us, and you will question whatever is out. By that time, I'm just gonna be, chill. I hope to be chill. I hope I have some money. That's the important thing. But the thing is that we're all. Everybody. The world changes. It is inevitable. It is the part of the dialectic of history is that there is inevitable change. Class changes. Everything changes. And,
but even coming back, Chris, not to cut you off, even though I did cut you off, I apologize. But one thing, I sadly bemoan the fact that the rap music of Public Enemy and KRS-One, the revolutionary empowerment, I'm fighting for my people and for the love of my people rap, that's never coming back because white people are so heavily invested and stepping vicariously into rap music. But they're never going to appreciate radio stations. I question their blackness. They call themselves black, but we'll see if they'll play this. That will never resonate with them. You know.
That's true. Well, no, you're right. So, no. You're right about that. You're right about that. And that's often been my beef. And that's another story. But you're right about that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. We had a great discussion today. Thank you, John, for being here. Thank everybody who called. Thank you all for listening and all that. Please continue to support black media outlets like this one. And please continue to support this show. So that's it for the Chris Murray Report. You're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURD, Black Talk Media. We will be back next week. Y'all have a great weekend. Thank everybody. Thank my producer, Jordan Booth. Take care.